I'm Julie Baumgardner, and this is the Marriage on the Daily podcast, the podcast designed to give you tools and encouragement to help you do married well on the daily. Because after all, it isn't the grand gestures that make or break your marriage. It's actually what you do or don't do on the daily that either builds a strong foundation or chips away at your core. You can do this, and I'm here to help. I am so excited about the conversation that we're going to have today. Ron Deal, who is a dear friend, I think we've known each other since 1999, so a very long time.
A very long time.
Who is absolutely the guru, world-renowned expert on stepfamilies and helping people come together and build a strong stepfamily. He is with us today, and our conversation, I know, is going to be amazing. Ron is a marriage and family therapist. He is married to Nan. They've been married since 1986. I know you guys just had a big anniversary.
We did.
40, I think. Is that right?
40. Can you believe it? My
Woo-hoo.
goodness.
Congratulations.
I can't be that old. No way.
I love that so much. And you all have 3 sons, and you have truly dedicated your life work to helping people to build strong stepfamilies. I can remember when I first met you, you had the book, The Smart Stepfamily, and I've lost count of the number of times that I have actually given that book to people and said, hey, this is really important reading. And they would come back to me and say, oh, this should be required reading for anybody who's about to become a stepfamily. So kudos to you for writing that. And I know that you're coming up on a big anniversary for that book.
Yeah, believe it or not, 2027 will be the 25th anniversary of that book, and we're doing another revision in honor of that.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me, Julie. I didn't think anybody would read it. Okay, I mean, I just had no idea what God would do with it, and so it's been an honor, and thank you for spreading the word.
Well, it is absolutely an excellent book. I highly recommend it. And you've written a number of other books, but I think the other one that jumps out at me at the moment is Building Love Together in Blended Families, the Smart Stepfamily and the 5 Love Languages kind of coming together, right?
That's right. Gary Chapman and I did that together, bring the best of his stuff with mine, and it was a lot of fun working with Gary.
Yeah, excellent book. And then your latest book, The Mindful Marriage, which is also an outstanding read. So lots of good things going on in your world for sure.
Yeah, thank you. I get to work with FamilyLife, leading their blended family ministry. We call it FamilyLife Blended. Blended, yes. And we're the largest blended family ministry in the world. But it's not saying much. Julie, I wish that was saying a lot. We have, I tell people, are you a reader, a watcher, a listener, an experiential person? We have everything for every one of those learning styles.
Yes,
from a podcast to video series to live events to articles, stuff online, all kinds of things. And yet, this is an untapped topic for the church. Yeah. We still have a long way to go.
Yeah, which is why I'm excited to dig in today, because the number of people who are in a stepfamily or connected to a stepfamily in some way. I mean, my husband and I were talking the other day, and he was like, I have 11 step siblings. and so I think all of us are knowing that we are in a step situation in some way, shape, or form, and trying to figure out, how do you navigate that well?
I'm so glad you brought it up, because somebody listening right now is going, I don't know, this is not for me. I don't know why I want to listen to this. Hang on. Two thoughts. 114 million Americans, men, women, and children, have a step relationship right now, just like Julie said. 114 million. That's 1/3 of the U.S. population.
Right.
We estimate another 100 million people know and love somebody who is in a blended family situation and are invested in their well-being or their kids in some form or fashion. If you stop and think about that, that's 2/3 of the U.S. population. And here's the other thought. I tell pastors all the time who say, I don't know anything about blended families. Do I need to care about this? And I go, hey, just keep living. Because one of your adult children, I'm going to marry somebody with a kid from a previous relationship. Something's going to come into your world at some point in your life, the odds are, and this is going to get very real very fast. So if it's not your life today, it probably will be, and it's somebody you know and love.
Yes. So let's start out. Let's just talk about when families come together. I know I've had conversations with people and they get very frustrated early on because they're in love as a couple and they honestly believed that love was just going to cover it all. And yet they're months or a couple of years in and they're finding that it's much more complicated than they thought it would be. And I think sometimes they feel a little bit like I'm losing hope here that this is going to actually work. And yet we know that it can. You just need to have some information and some tools to help you keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Exactly. I'm so glad you brought this up because there is a common experience for people who are dating, falling in love. They get a vision. They get a shared, idea of life together as a couple, and they decide to get married. The perspective is the first thing we want to help people with.
Yes.
That forms coupleness.
Right.
But stepfamilies are about familyness. And those are two totally different things. It's not just about two people falling in love. It's about 8 people falling in love. And if you count people in the other home, you got to get along with and collaborate with a co-parent in another home, maybe an ex-grandmother, a former mother-in-law, sort of. So all of a sudden you're up to 15 real fast, and it's sort of like some of those people are motivated towards one another and liking each other, and some of those people are not necessarily motivated, or they're okay with it, but they're just not they don't want to love you. They don't need you. And so you have you have this collision of agendas. You have a collision of motivations, motivations that are some high and some low. Gary and I flesh this out in our book, Building Love Together in Blended Families. Here's a quick little illustration. Parent and step-parent who get married form a coupleness relationship. That is a motivation of a 10 on a 10 scale for love. Right. Absolutely, right? And their motivation for their kids and one another's kids is a 9 or a 10 on a 10 scale. But the children are something less than that.
Yeah.
One of them might be an 8. Well, that's great, but it's not a 9. There might be one that's a 6. There might be one that's a 3. There might be one that's 25 or 30 years of age. Dad just got married again. Their level of motivation towards stepmom, is that even what I call her? That's Dad's wife. She's not my mom. I don't even know what to make sense. Their motivation is about a 2 or a 1 on a 10 scale.
Right.
And so the 9 step-parent says, yeah, let's spend some time together. And the 1 stepchild says, no, I don't need you. Sorry. And now what? That's the reality that people wake up to, as you were talking about. And then they go, now what do we do? And my first message is, hey, look, that collision, the complexity you're beginning to uncover and you're experiencing is not the end of the world. It does not mean you made a mistake. That's really important. It does not mean you made a mistake.
Right.
It just means you have a new journey to be on. Falling in love and forming a couple relationship was the first journey. Now you're on the familyness journey.
Yes.
We'll help you figure out how to navigate that.
And how long would you say that it typically takes 2 families to actually come together and blend, if you will, or learn to step together? How long does that take typically?
Yeah. Well, again, age of children. Are they in the home? Are they 19 going to college and really not in your home and basically moving out? And so, that's a much, much slower relationship bonding process than a 4-year-old who's in the home 24/7. So a lot of different variables there, but in general, Patricia Pappernow, who knows more about this than anybody, says it takes on average 5 to 7 years for the average blended family to figure out familyness, to come together, to kind of gain a sense of safety with one another and connectedness. 5 to 7 years. Very important. That's not 5 to 7 months.
No.
That's not 5 to 7 weeks. That's not a honeymoon 5 to 7 days. That is a long time. Slow families take 9 or more years. Fast families, she says, can do it in 3 or 4 years, but all the age of children and the co-parent relationships have to be really healthy. Like, there just has to be a few things working on their behalf.
Yeah.
It's to settle into this is going to be a journey is a must. Because if you get impatient, here's what happens. When people get impatient, they start trying to they try to force the blend.
Yeah.
They get mad at a teenager because they haven't fully embraced their step-sibling, or they get frustrated with a kid who doesn't want this a deep, close relationship with a step-parent. Well, guess what? Getting mad and frustrated with a kid over bonding doesn't help them like somebody more. It makes them like them less, as a matter of fact. And so now you're sort of undoing your own journey as a family. You got to accept the fact that it's a long haul, and you're going to be patient, you're going to be strategic, and you're going to have to settle in and ride it out.
Yeah. So what would you say? I mean, I'm sure that there are people listening who are newly on this journey, and then there are some that are a bit further down the road. What would you say to them are some core things that would be helpful for them to think about? One, to keep their marriage healthy, and two, to keep this process going in terms of the whole recognizing, hey, this is a journey of bonding, not a sprint.
Yeah. Okay, so let's use a metaphor. You've heard me use it before. How do you cook a step family? It's not with a blender. They have blades. Somebody's going to get chopped up and hurt. That's not a good idea. We are going to use a crock pot. Crock pots work on low heat over a long period of time, and that adds up to something really delicious. That's how step families come together best. So carrot, potatoes, meat, celery, spices, all cook at their own pace. That's that motivation thing I was talking about. Some ingredients are highly motivated toward connecting. Others aren't. They move at their own pace. Some ingredients are on day one naturally came in together. That's dad and his children. If mom and if she has children, they kind of come in lumped together in the crock pot, coupled with the kids that they came in with, and those insider relationships are bonded, and there's history and a same last name, and they know who one another is, and they trust each other. Yeah. It's the outsider step people ingredients that we're going to try to bond and connect with. And so there's a journey in those spaces. Bio-parent, step-parent have to try to parent together immediately. And that, by the way, is mitigated and influences their marriage. Their marriage supports that, but if the parenting doesn't go well, the marriage suffers as a result of that.
Right.
So there's a couple of strategic things we're going to say to people in this crock pot. A, it's slow. You got to have low heat and trust that a little effort over time adds up to something. If you go for that high heat, pressuring, blending thing, and now you get frustrated with a child because, like we said, that's not going to work. It's going to backfire. Yeah. So you move toward a stepchild in ways that they'll receive you. You find out what child A, child B, child C likes, what they appreciate, what they value, what their interests are, and you try to move into those spaces if they'll let you in, as they'll let you in. And you start with that simple little connection, and you just keep going back to that of sports, or it's fashion, or it's talking about, TV shows or whatever. And you just connect around those little pieces, and you keep doing it over and over and over and over and over and over and over in this crock pot until it adds up to something warm. And that's where bonding and relationship takes place. Here's another principle. Biological parent frequently gets caught in the middle between their children and what they feel like their kids need and what their spouse needs. And so here's what we want bio parents to know. Your kids don't move directly toward your spouse, their step parent. They move to the step parent through you. Now, this is really important.
Yeah.
So through you means let's say biological mom's got 3 kids and stepdad. Let's just say that's our scenario. So mom needs to move toward her children early in the crock pot to reinforce and remind them, you still have me. I'm still here. I still love you. I know I got married to this guy, and yes, he has some of me, and yes, he's taken some of my energy and my time, but he hasn't taken all of me from you. And so I'm going to, on Saturday morning, we're going to go feed the ducks, just like we did when I was a single parent and we spent time together. We're going to go bike riding on Saturday afternoon, just like we used to do when I was a single mom and we used to spend time on. And she's going to maintain some of those important little points of connection with her kids in order to say to them, I'm still here. And she is going to move toward her husband for the sake of the marriage, and they're going to go on dates, and they're going to have conversation around parenting issues, and they're going to have, parental powwows, I call them, where they get together and huddle up on what are we going to do about Johnny in school. And they're going to work really hard on marriage stuff because it is the new foundation for this home. And so it's a both and. She moves toward her kids even as she's moving toward her husband, knowing that the children are going to learn to like her husband because they still have mom. If they lose mom on day one because she gets married, and you know what I mean by lose. If mom's unavailable, mom's totally invested in husband and unavailable to her kids, then why would they fall in love with their stepdad? Like, he's the guy who took mom away.
Yes.
Right?
It's kind of like a threat. It feels like a threat.
It is absolutely a threat.
Yeah.
And so in the face of that threat, he's unsafe. We're going to move away from him. We're going to whine and complain and fuss and be upset about what's going on in the home. Mom's going to feel like she's failing the kids and failing her family. And everybody begins to unravel, right? This is delicate. But that little triangle thing we just talked about and described is at the core of a lot of difficulties. But if mom and stepdad are unified around the importance of their relationship is vital, and mom needs to spend and invest time in children early on to remind them, to help settle some of those threats, then all of a sudden we start giving this thing a chance. And stepdad finds that one little point of connection with child A and child B. And over time, he's going to work on building a friendship. And the friendship with some children will develop into liking each other, respecting each other. And with some kids, that's going to develop into a parent-child bond that is amazing and powerful and fruitful. And the child is blessed because of it. Now that comes with the passage of time, but it starts in the simple little strategic mechanisms we've been talking about.
Yeah, man, such good information. And I'm also thinking about that moment where things kind of go south, and one of the children looks at their father's new wife and says, "You're not my mother."
Yeah. We've got a strategy for her in that moment.
All right. Well, let's talk about that, because I think the co-parenting thing is real. And it can be great. I've seen some people do it really, really well. It can also be very complicated because other parents have different living arrangements, different rules, no rules, all kinds of combinations.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate through that as you are trying to work on your marriage and you are also working on building a family, if you will?
Okay, people use different terms in different ways, so let me just define the way we use them.
Okay.
We talk about the parent and step-parent bond, and that's a marriage bond, and it's also a parental bond. When I use the term co-parenting, I'm thinking about former spouses who still have to collaborate together to raise their children. Kids are moving between mom's house and dad's house.
Right.
Now, these things are always intersecting with one another. So let's just do the scenario you talked about. A kid looks at stepmom and says, "You're not my mom. I don't have to clean up the kitchen." What does stepmom do? Well, first of all, it would be really nice if she knew in that moment that my husband's got my back. If she and he had been working towards her sort of holding a babysitter type role in the home. Everybody listening right now has had a babysitter.
Yes.
Do you ever think about that? We leave our 4-year-old with some woman we hardly know. We don't even know her last name. She's 16 and cute. That's all we know. And we put our 4-year-old in her care, and we walk out the door. It's crazy when you stop and think about what babysitting is. But how does that actually function? Well, it functions because the babysitter is empowered by the biological parent's power. They're empowered to manage the child and the behavior in the household while the parents are gone. We're going to let step-parents play that role. So in this moment, if she's been playing that role and she knows her husband's got her back, just like we would have a babysitter's back.
So important.
Which is so critical, right? That's the back story here. But if that's true, then she can look at this child and say, with a little smile on her face, "You're right. I'm not your mom."
Yeah.
Pause. There's more to it, but pause. how can she say that? She's the mom. She's paying for everything. She's cleaning this kid's laundry, for crying out loud, and cooking dinner. I know, but she's not the mom. And there's no sense arguing over that with a child, because the child has the trump card. If you position yourself to say, yeah, but I'm like a mom. No. You don't need to do that. Just be the babysitter. So you're right. I'm not your mom. However, your dad and I have talked. This is the household rule. Everybody cleans up in the kitchen after themselves when you finish making a mess. And so I'm going to ask you to clean up the kitchen. And your father would say the same thing if he were standing here right now. And by the way, if you don't clean up the kitchen, we'll just use your allowance and pay your brother, and he can clean it up for you, and you'll just go with that allowance for the week. That's up to you. Turn and walk out of the room as the stepmother and let it fall wherever it falls. The child gets to then choose their consequence, their behavior. We don't have to have an argument about whether you are or aren't my mom. That's not the point. The point is the stepmom empowered by dad to follow through with household rules and expectations? Anybody can do that. I would venture, if when your daughter was young, if I came over to your house and you said, hey, Ron, I got to slip out for a minute, would you watch my daughter? I'd say absolutely. And you'd empower me, and I could get it done for 30 minutes until you came back. This is what we start with. And this is what helps that stepmom in that moment get something done, manage the moment, not feel total rejection, and feel some strength, because she's resting in that relationship with her husband. They've agreed, household rules, you can enforce, and we can get it done. Now, what we're doing with that strategy, Julie, is buying time. That is not where we want the stepmom to be in 5 years.
Yes.
We want her to be in a totally different place with that child.
Yes.
But in the meantime, we're bonding, we're building relationship. You're finding other moments of connectedness with this child that eventually gives you your own power to be a parent.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to build into this family slowly over time in the crock pot.
Yeah, I don't want to brush over this concept of stepmom and dad, or vice versa. It is really important that you have some conversations, the two of you, about your strategy, about your philosophy around discipline and how you're going to discipline together. Because I've heard some nightmare stories of, they came together and you only discipline your children and I discipline my children and my children only have to listen to me, and things just go south very quickly.
Yeah.
So what I hear you focusing on is that there needs to be strategy between the parents about how we're going to handle things in our home.
Yes, absolutely. I've had people say, well, can't I just parent my kids and she parents her kids? The answer is, well, you can get away with that for a little bit. Like if you got a 18-year-old who's just about to graduate high school, they're on their way out. Yes, one of you just take the lead and let it ride. Temporary stuff, understandable. But if you want togetherness, if you want family cohesion, you have to be on the same parental page. And you can't have two different standards for different sets of kids. You can't have the full-time kids have one set of chores and expectations, and the part-time kids who show up once a month, they don't ever have to do anything. No. That doesn't work. That just creates animosity between step-siblings. That just creates this favoritism, jealousy thing that's going to divide and conquer. No, you got to have unified rules and standards. Now, can they morph based on your household and the other household and their values versus your... Yes, inform your rules and your standards based on what's going on in a child's other home. But you can't have overt, completely different standards for different children. And so that means parental negotiation. And I think this is huge. I mean, we've spent a fair amount of time trying to make that process helpful for people to say, all right, you were authoritarian parent, you were permissive parent in your single parent years. You can't stay there, either one of you, when it comes to parenting together or parenting the other person's kids. That won't be helpful. So let's spend some time talking about how you can get more on the same page with one another so that there's a unified expectation moving forward in your home. This is never just about parenting, Julie. This is an important point. I often say that there's an intersection between on Parenting Street and Marriage Avenue. And in step families, there's a lot of T-bone accidents right there at
Oh
that
my gosh,
intersection.
that's not the truth.
Because what starts out as a, wait a minute, I made a decision and you undercut me with your kid. Do you love your kids more than you love? What starts out as parenting immediately becomes a marriage issue.
Yeah.
And it's about, can I trust you with me? It's
Right.
one thing to say, can I trust you with your kids or my kids? It's another thing to say, it feels like I'm on the outs, not just in parenting, but I'm on the outs in terms of our relationship. That will bring jeopardy to the marriage relationship really, really fast.
Yeah. Let's talk for a minute about the other parent. So
Okay.
you are trying to co-parent.
Yes.
And this is your ex. And they say they're going to show up and they don't show
Yeah.
up, and there's disappointment and there's anger directed at you, but it's really not about you,
Yeah.
except for that if you hadn't have divorced my parent, this wouldn't be happening. So how do you help this new family that's forming navigate when there's disappointment from the co-parent, or when things really are chaotic in the other household and you're just trying to hold it together in your own?
Yeah. So first of all, let me just acknowledge not everybody has a co-parent between home situation. If your spouse passed away, you're a
Right.
parent full-time 24/7,
Yes.
step
Yes.
parents 24/7. Often there's a combination. One was divorced, one was widowed, and now, a lot of different scenarios
Yes.
happening in step families.
Yes,
But for
correct.
those that do have another household, which is the majority,
Mm-hmm.
co-parenting is really important. And what I would say there is you are you are two countries, and your children have citizenship in both of those countries.
Yeah.
And as long as that's the U.S. and Canada, hey, we're going to be okay. Yes, Canada has different rules and laws and expectations and a money system and a government system than ours, but we like each other. We get along really well. I mean, I love Canadians. You ever been they're lovely people.
Yes.
And when you get there, they're like, oh, tell us about life in America. Like, everybody's free. There's permission everywhere. And then you turn around and come back to the States, and people go, oh, where'd you go in Canada? Who'd you see? There's no sense of betrayal. There's no sense of loyalty that is demanded by either country. But if you are Russia and Ukraine, if that is your co-parent relationship, then your children are POWs, and they are constantly under a barrage of missiles, and they are always looking over their head, and they're hyper vigilant to the adults in their world and what they might say or do that would make things worse. They're constantly seeking peace. They're just trying to duck and cover. Like, everything is different about their world. And at that point, we have to talk about loss. We have to talk about loyalty issues and loyalty binds, where kids feel caught in the middle between the battles going on between
Right.
Russia and Ukraine. Like, that is a no-win situation
Yes.
for a kid.
Yes.
All of those things become super, super relevant at that point. In a scenario like you're talking about, and there's thousands of little co-parent scenarios, but in that one where maybe one of the biological parents has sort of gone MIA and they're just not involved in the kids anymore, and sometimes that hurt ripples out in toward the high functioning parent who is engaged and is doing a great job, and especially the new step parent who walks into that scenario. They're the easy target.
Yeah.
I want mom, I don't want stepmom. I want mom, but mom's MIA, and that's the loyalty a child feels. Sometimes the problem is the stepmom is awesome. She's lovely. She's Christian. She's got great values. She is kind. She is generous. She has a big heart. She's working really hard to try to connect with those stepchildren, and they like her, and they can't allow themselves to like her.
Yes.
Because to like her is to close the door on mom, and I'm never going to close the door
Feels like
on
disloyalty.
mom. Absolutely. So it is a no-win for a kid. And one of my favorite stories I love to tell when I do seminars in churches for step-family couples, a 5-year-old, true story, came into, I had a stepmom walk into a counseling session one time. She said, my 5-year-old stepson comes back from his mom's house. He comes into our house and he says, hey, when I'm here with you and Dad, can I love you? And it's to his stepmom. And when I go to my mom's house, can I hate you? And you're like going, oh my word. Even a 5-year-old knows Russia and Ukraine. They know the game. And this kid, the only way he can figure out how to do this is to to like his stepmother because he loves her and he wants to spend time with her. But he knows his mom needs him to hate her. So when he's at mom's house, he's going to pretend like he doesn't like her. He's just so innocent. He's asking his stepmom for her permission to do that, right? Yeah. Older kids don't ask permission.
Oh, no.
But it makes the point. If you're going to try to parent or step-parent in that scenario, you got to look into the heart of this child, look past their actions and their words to this loyalty issue, this bind, this attachment stuff there, this deep loss and pain that they're feeling over something that isn't going well with one of their parents.
Yes.
And you got to find a way to speak into that. So what I would do is I would coach that stepmom and that dad. By the way, I asked that stepmom, so what'd you say? And she said, well, what I wanted to say. And I laughed, and she said, but I knew I couldn't. I couldn't ask him to do that, fight for me. No way. With his mom, there's no way he can fight for me.
No.
I said, so what'd you say? And she said, yes, I told him he could. Well, first of all, that's a gold medal in my book to this woman for taking the short end of the stick, going, yeah, I'll take the heat on this, because a 5-year-old has no business trying to fight battles on behalf of his dad or his stepmom.
The adult battles, no.
Right. So what I would then coach them to do is to sit down with his 5-year-old, 15-year-old, whatever it is, and try to find a way to go, that is such a hard thing for you. I can see how you're stuck in the middle between us and your mom. And you must feel like you got to speak up for us. You got to say something to make them feel better, make us feel better. Hey, I just want you to know, you don't owe me that. We love you no matter what. We want you to have a great time when you're with your mom. Enjoy her. She's your mom. That's good. It's just as it should be. And when you're here with us, you can just enjoy being with us. That's all. So you take the child out of that tug of war by giving them your permission. That little thing helps. Now, does a child feel the tug of war when he goes to mom's? Yes, he still does. It hasn't alleviated that side of the equation. Now we might have a conversation between dad, bio dad, and bio mom. It's worth a try. Who knows whether it'll get anywhere, but it's worth a try for him to have a co-parent meeting with her and to just say something like, look, this may surprise you, but our son feels caught in the middle. And we've noticed it on our end, and we're trying to do some things to take him out of the middle. We're trying to give him permission, love you, enjoy us, and just have, those separate connections. And I just would appreciate it if you would think about doing that as well on your side. Yeah, can't make you, but just want to let you know that's something and it's that soft invitation. This is being the ambassador between the two countries to just try to say, let's figure out how we can work together. And when co-parents move toward what we call cooperative co-parenting, they get better at this between households. It does bring a little more peace, a few less bombs, and anything that improves that helps a child be a child. And not have to play adult games. It's
so important.
Critical. And one of the things we know, I want to say about healthy, godly step-parents who step into that space and don't add to all the chaos, but they bring a calm and they bring a peace. They are redemptive, healing individuals in the midst of the Russia-Ukraine war. You know, I mean, that is a powerful place for step-parents to be. And it is we just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to healthy step-parents on behalf of all the kids out there who have a better world because of you.
Yes. And I think when a step-parent is able to do that, it really does take the temperature down.
It does.
A lot, because the child doesn't feel like... they don't feel so much like they're caught in the middle. It feels less so.
Sometimes parents will say, well, we never put the kids in the middle. I'm like, you don't have to put them in the middle.
You don't have to. They're there.
They're already there. They are imagining the war. They know the battles. They understand the animosity. They feel it on a visceral level, even if it's not said with words. They are already taking care of you when you don't even realize it. You've got to actively work to be your own person, to be responsible for yourself, and take them out of responsibility for you as a child and let them be a kid. You got to be actively doing that. Otherwise, they'll just do it all on their own.
Yes. Well, and I think just recognizing you're the adult in the room. And even if you have a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old, the prefrontal cortex isn't fully formed.
That's right.
And there's just a lot of executive function that, isn't in play yet. And so as the adult,
Yeah.
you have to recognize.
And let's add on top of that,
going on there.
Family patterns persist. I don't care how old. So take that kid who grew up in a blended family. They're now 40. They got their own family, raising, career, the whole bit. Whenever they go home at Thanksgiving,
Oh my God.
I guarantee you, they go back to being a child dealing with dad about his conversations with mom, or how the family on this side feels about the family on that side. Like, they immediately go into more of a childlike posture, unless they're actively working on growing themselves up and being more adult in those situations. But more often than not, people just regress back into that same behavioral pattern and childlike. And so I don't care how old they are. When you give them permission to not do that anymore, it's helpful.
Well, and I think it's just enlightening to know that. I actually had somebody say to me one time, I feel like, they were a child of divorce, and they said, I feel like when I walk back through the threshold at home, I feel like I revert back. It's almost like I can't stop myself.
Patterns are really powerful.
And there's actual research
that
absolutely shows that a lot of development, when a divorce occurs, that a lot of development stops or is very delayed. So that's a very real thing.
It is. It is an ongoing behavioral pattern within the family. And the parent sort of expects you to play that role. I mean, not on a conscious level, of course, but it's just the way it's always been. And we tend to revert back into that unless I begin to act differently. And that's another challenge, to grow past who I've been in these relationships. All of that to make the point. Let me just say it this way. Whatever step-family situation you're in, let's say you're a step-parent and you've been on the scene for 2 years, whatever preceded you walking into this family picture is very important for you to understand. The pain, the difficulty, the divorce, the death of the parent, whatever that backstory of loss and sadness is, it is still present today, and it's still making a difference in how you're received, accepted, understood, whether there's an open door into people's hearts for you or whether that door is closed. It has something to do with the past and the loss. So it's not just we got a whole new family and everything's fine. It's we're living in light of what has been. And the more you understand what the child's backstory is, the easier it is for you to step into that space.
This has been so informative and I think enlightening, just to have the opportunity as a parent, a step parent, to think through, what is happening between us and our marriage, what's happening with our children. And I would love to close this out by just asking you, what is one thing that you would say to couples, hey, think about doing this on the daily in order to have a really positive impact on your marriage?
I'm going to give you two.
Okay. A bonus.
One is a bonus for bonus families. One is constantly be checking in as husband and wife, parent, step parent, about how you're being a team. Because it's not just the logistics of getting children here, there. It's not just parenting decisions. It is always also about your marriage. And if your marriage is struggling, there's no heat to the crock pot. Nothing else cooks.
Right.
And so you really got to keep that thing alive and functioning well, and then other things have a chance to cook. Okay, so that's number one.
Okay, that's excellent.
Number two is a lot of research on blended families. They get down the road and they ask them, look back, what did you not see that you wish you would have seen? What was happening that was actually good, but you didn't fully understand it, and now you can look back and see it, but you didn't see it at the moment. And time again, one of the things that comes through is people saying, I didn't notice what was healthy, what was going well for us. Like, we got 7 ingredients in our crock pot, and 5 of those relationships were really cooking. I mean, they were going great, but I was so obsessed and worried and frustrated with the 2 that weren't. That I missed the good on the daily that we were experiencing as a family unit. And I was just concentrating on the hard or difficult, and that ruined the good. So what I would say is take inventory specifically for what's going well. Keep being prayerful and strategic and working hard on what's not going well. But my goodness, look at what's going well and offer a word of thanks to God and give yourself a nice deep breath of going, okay, this is on our side. This we just keep pouring into. The rest is going to come along with time.
Man, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
It's great to be here, Julie.
Grateful
Thank you.
for that.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening, friends. You can find Ron's resources as well as other resources and updates on marriageonthedaily.com. And until next time, remember, it's the little things that matter daily in your marriage.